From a potential cover-up to the physical proof that giants once lived in Egypt, here are 10 fascinating stories and discoveries that prove giants may have actually existed. Number 10. The Giants of Patagonia. Have you ever heard the story of Ferdinand Magellan? He was an explorer from 500 years ago who was the first European to sail all the way around the world, and his records of the things he saw were absolutely legendary. In 1520, he made a critical stop in Patagonia where he witnessed something unbelievable, a real-life giant. The giant was found singing and dancing on the shore with his other giant friends when Magellan and his crew spied them from the boat. According to the legend, Magellan ordered one of his crew to approach the giants and sing and dance with them to show solidarity and to demonstrate friendship. The giant was apparently friendly. It was also so huge that the Europeans only reached up to its waist. Magellan called the giant and his giant kin Patagons. This is why Patagonia literally translates to Land of the Giants, or more specifically, Land of the Bigfoot, seeing as Pata translates to foot in Portuguese. It's been said that Magellan captured 2 of the giants and then took them back to bring them to Europe, but they died on the voyage home and their bodies were dumped in the ocean. To this day, we don't really know if there were giants in Patagonia or if they all perished from European diseases quickly after they met Magellan and his crew. However, they were described even after Magellan, with other explorers to South America and the region of Patagonia witnessing very large people. But as the years went on, the giants got smaller and smaller. In 1615, Dutch explorers found the remains of people who were 10 feet tall. In the 1760s, Captain John Byron encountered giants that were 9 feet tall. Even later, the French explorer Louis de Bougainville reported that the tallest person in all of Patagonia was hardly even 6 feet tall. The question here is, were there even giants to begin with? And if so, how did they shrink? Did the largest ones all die out? Number 9. Giants in China. In China, a graveyard of giants was just uncovered recently. The graveyard was found filled with skeletons over 5,000 years old and measuring almost 6 feet, and while this may seem short to our standards of today, this was a very long time ago when Neolithic people were usually very small, which makes this finding a bit peculiar to researchers. The Neolithic population back then was not even 5.5 feet tall, 1.7 meters. What this means is that whoever these strange people were, they were literal giants of their time. According to the Smithsonian magazine, the tallest among them was rumored to be over 9 feet tall, 3 meters, taller than everyone on Earth right now. But why did these people get so big? Researchers have one theory, but it's a bit shaky. They claim that people may have grown to such fantastic heights because they were rich and had access to better foods. The tombs they were found in suggest they were indeed wealthy. However, these people may have just been from a lineage of giants. We may never know for sure. Number 8. The Smithsonian cover-up. There may have been a race of giants living in Wisconsin hundreds or even thousands of years ago. Their bodies were allegedly discovered in a burial mound near Lake Delavan back in 1912. From what little records we have to go off of, we know that the big site was overseen by Belvoir College and that there were at least 200 mounds, all part of a mysterious woodland culture from the 8th century. The strangest part about the bodies uncovered here was how large they were. Some of them apparently had elongated skulls, while the skeletons themselves stood between 7.5 feet and 10 feet, 2.5 meters and 3 meters tall. This would make them certifiable giants. But the oddities didn't stop at just being huge. They also had double rows of teeth, 6 fingers and 6 toes, and may have lived much longer than the average human of today. However, there's no physical evidence right now that this ever happened. Some say that the giants were actually covered up by scientists working with the Smithsonian Institution. There's a belief that the real skeletons were either destroyed or hidden by scientists back in the early 20th century to keep the public from ever knowing that the giants were real. Where do you stand on this theory? Number 7. Proof of Nephilim. One of the oldest written mentions of giants goes back to the Bible, with the description of the Nephilim. So what are the Nephilim and are they real? They have been described as the sons of God who procreated with the daughters of men. This exact description in the Bible has been interpreted in quite a few different ways. Daughters of men definitely refers to human women, but sons of God has been interpreted as meaning angels or, depending on who you ask, extraterrestrials. No matter which way you slice it, some believe that the Nephilim were giant hybrids between human and some other type of life form. Unfortunately, there's never been any proof that Nephilim walked the face of the earth. But that said, not everything in the Bible has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt. For those who believe, the mere mention of them in the Bible is proof enough. For others who believe the Bible is a host of stories, the Nephilim are still proof that giants once walked the earth and that people over 2,000 years ago knew of their existence. But if true, just where did they go? And where are their bones today? Could their remains be hidden under the Vatican? Or somewhere else? Number 6. Megalithic Peru. The megalithic walls at the complex of Sacsayhuaman may be proof that giants once lived in ancient Peru. This site is famous for having some of the largest stone boulders used in an ancient construction. The stones here are absolutely massive, and some people speculate that the only way the ancient people could have lifted them into place would have been if they were giants. Of course, normal-sized humans with ancient tools would never have been able to build something like this fortress, right? Even more incredible is that the stones have been found to fit so closely together that you can't even insert a thin piece of paper between the cracks. The precision is simply outstanding. Plus, the stones are all oddly shaped. They're not just square blocks. Instead, some are hexagons, some are circular, and they're all perfectly set into one another. Either these people were giants, or they had some special technology that we don't know about today. The method used to get such precision has been debated for decades. Some say ancient people used a mysterious liquid to soften the stones. Some claim the people were visited by aliens who gave them increased knowledge of engineering. Others say that the race of people who lived here were actually giant. They have long since gone extinct, and that was why they were able to easily transport the stones to the site, some of which weighed hundreds of tons. Number 5. Giant of CASTELNAU. The Giant of CASTELNAU is the biggest known human that ever existed. Back in 1890, 3 bone fragments were discovered in the dirt covering a Bronze Age burial dating back to the Neolithic period. There was a humerus, a tibia, and a femoral midshaft. Judging by the size of the 3 bones, the human they once belonged to was estimated to be somewhere around 11.5 feet tall, 3.5 meters tall. Now, there's never been a proper scientific study published about the alleged giant bones, but we do know that they exist. They were found at a cemetery in France, though the rest of the bones were never discovered, leading scientists to wonder what happened to the rest of the body. Some have speculated that the bones may have belonged to some kind of mutated human with a morbid growth defect. Others claim they belong to a race of men living in Europe that had grown to around 15 feet tall, 4.5 meters. The only issue is that no other bones have been found, and nobody knows why only 3 leg bones were discovered in the dirt, not even buried in the actual grave. Number 4. Greek giants. The ancient Greeks spoke frequently of giants beginning over 2,000 years ago. To the Greeks, giants were very real creatures who lived and died, and whose bones were sometimes discovered buried in the dirt. In Greek myth, giants originated as the children of Uranus and Gaia, powerful beings that ruled the earth before being overthrown by the gods, with Zeus in the lead. This bit of mythology is obviously exaggerated. It's unlikely that a lightning-wielding god ever fought a race of supergiants. However, the Greeks did have a very logical reason for believing in giants. It's because they found so many giant bones. But here's the issue. The bones found by the Greeks were probably those of mammoths, mastodons, and other huge creatures that once lived in the region and that the Greeks had no idea existed. Each time they pulled an enormous mammoth bone out of the ground, they assumed it once belonged to a huge person. They actually thought that giants could grow over 300 feet tall, 100 meters tall, because they would mash up all the old animal bones they found and assume they belonged to the same giant, not even considering that the bones were just part of an extinct hairy elephant. We know that the Greeks were tricked by the remains of ancient animals. However, there's always the chance that somewhere along the way, one of the bones they found really had belonged to a huge person, though probably not hundreds of feet tall. Number 3. The Roman Colossus. The Roman Colossus is yet another real-life giant that definitely lived. To date, he's the oldest complete skeleton ever found afflicted with gigantism. His remains were found near Rome during an excavation in 1991. He stood 6 feet and 8 inches tall and lived during the 3rd century AD. At the time, the average male only grew to be about 5.5 feet tall, 1.7 meters tall. This guy would have been a certifiable freak and a true titan among men. The only difference with this guy is that he had gigantism, a very rare medical condition that causes a person's bones to keep growing way after they should stop, thanks to an overproduction of a growth hormone. According to National Geographic, the Roman Colossus died between 16 and 20, probably due to cardiovascular disease associated with gigantism. He was also discovered buried in a typical grave with absolutely no interesting grave goods, suggesting he was just an ordinary guy in society. If you were a Roman supergiant, what would you have done? Would you have fought in the Colosseum? Or perhaps led an army of soldiers to terrorize neighboring countries? Or would you have tried to become a celebrity and run for the Senate? Tell me what you think you'd do in the comments down below. Then remember to subscribe to American Eye if you haven't already for more incredible videos just like this one. Number 2. A giant footprint. A footprint was discovered just a few years ago in China that could be true proof that giants once roamed through Asia. The footprint obviously belonged to a person. It looks just like any ordinary footprint, only significantly larger. It was found by photographers while trekking through a remote region of the Guizhou province, and they measured it at being 22 inches long. This would suggest that the person who left the footprint, which was discovered fossilized in a slab of rock, would have been slightly more than 13 feet, 4 meters tall. Unfortunately, there haven't been any bones in China discovered that match the footprint. There are no important archaeological sites near it either, and there was no additional footprint to be found. It could be a fake, or it could be evidence of something researchers have yet to piece together. It's left scientists with what you might call a giant of a mystery. Number 1. A giant pharaoh. In ancient Egypt, there was a giant pharaoh. A new study has shown that the pharaoh Sa-Nakht may have been one of the oldest human giants. His skeleton was found in 1901 inside of a tomb, with initial estimates placing his bones as being from the 3rd dynasty or 2700 BC. Measuring the bones, scientists realized that this guy stood over 6 feet tall. This was significantly taller than any other Egyptian living during those days. According to Live Science, the tallest pharaoh other than Sa-Nakht was Ramesses II, who stood 5 foot 9 inches, 1.8 meters tall. But he lived over 1,000 years after. So how did Sa-Nakht become such a huge person? There are a few theories. He may have just been born significantly larger than the others. He may have had a devastating case of gigantism that made him the tallest Egyptian royal ever. On the other hand, he may have come from a race of giants and had giant's blood coursing through his veins. We just don't know the answer. And considering this famous ruler lived nearly 5,000 years ago, we probably never will. Do you think giants are real? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for stopping by. If you haven't already, be sure to hit the subscribe button on your way out, and I'll see you next time.